The contract felt heavier than it should. Sade Williams stood in the center of Seo Jin-Wook's penthouse, fingers trembling around a pen that cost more than her monthly rent. The marble floor beneath her feet gleamed like ice, cold, unforgiving, expensive. Everything in this place whispered money and danger. Crystal decanters lined shelves she'd never touch. Abstract paintings hung on walls that felt too white, too sterile, like a hospital where nothing ever healed. She was a nurse. She knew the smell of death. This place reeked of it. "You're stalling." His voice cut through the silence, smooth, accented, deliberately measured. Seo Jin-Wook entered from the shadows of his study, hands in the pockets of a charcoal suit tailored so precisely it looked weaponized. His face was angular, beautiful in the way sharp things are beautiful. Dangerous. His dark eyes tracked her movements with the focus of a predator who'd already decided she couldn't run. "I'm thinking," Side managed, hating how small her voice sounded. "Don't." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "Thinking won't change what you need, or what I'm offering." On the glass table between them sat two things: the contract and a photograph of her younger brother. Malik's face was swollen, one eye blackened, lip split. The image was recent. She could tell by the Falcon's hoodie she'd bought him for Christmas. Her stomach twisted. 18 months, Jinwook continued, stopping just close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and something darker like smoke. "You live here. You appear beside me when required. You speak when spoken to. You smile for cameras. You ask no questions." And Malik? Released within 72 hours. All charges dropped. Protected. Sade's jaw clenched. And the intimacy clause? Something flickered in his expression. Amusement, maybe, or contempt. "There won't be any. This is a business arrangement, Miss Williams. I need a wife on paper. You need your brother alive. We both get what we need without the inconvenience of pretending this is anything more." Her chest tightened. The rumors had followed her here, whispered by the lawyer who delivered the contract, murmured by the driver who'd brought her to this gilded cage. "He doesn't touch women. His last partner was male. You're just the cover story." She looked down at the contract, the words blurred. Section 4, no expectation of marital intimacy. Section 7, complete discretion regarding personal matters. Section 12, termination without cause results in immediate breach penalties. In other words, obey or Malik dies. Said picked up the pen. Her hand shook as she signed her name, each letter a betrayal of the life she'd built through grit and double shifts and prayers her mother taught her. The ink bled across the page like a wound opening. When she finished, Jinwook reached across the table. His fingers brushed hers as he took the contract. Ice. His skin was ice cold despite the warmth of the room. "Welcome to your cage, Mrs. Seo," he said softly, sliding a diamond ring across the table. It glittered like broken glass. She didn't know then that this signature would lead to blood, bullets, and a truth that would shatter everything. If you're watching from your bedroom at 2 a.m. wondering where this goes, you're not ready. Like and subscribe, because what happens next will haunt you. Sadie slipped the ring on and felt the trap close around her throat. The first 3 weeks of marriage taught Sade Williams one thing. Loneliness felt different when you were surrounded by luxury. She woke each morning in a bedroom the size of her old apartment, Egyptian cotton sheets cool against her skin, and reached for a husband who was never there. Jinwook's side of the bed, technically in another wing entirely, remained untouched. His pillow still smelled like the plastic it came wrapped in. Their only interactions were performances. Tuesday morning, she found him in the kitchen before dawn, speaking rapid Korean into his phone while pouring espresso he wouldn't drink. He glanced at her, nodded once, then switched to Mandarin mid-sentence without breaking stride. She poured her own coffee, added too much sugar, and left before he could notice she was shaking. She'd spent 12 years as a night shift nurse at Grady Memorial. She'd talked a man off a ledge at 3 a.m. while his daughter sobbed in the hallway. She'd performed CPR on a 6-year-old until her arms gave out, then kept going. She'd held the hand of a woman dying alone, whispering prayers she half remembered, because nobody should leave this world without being seen. Sade Williams was not weak, but this place was erasing her. By week 2, she'd memorized the rhythms of Jinwook's world. He slept 3 hours, maybe 4. He spoke 4 languages fluently, switching between them like someone changing masks. English for business, Korean for family, Mandarin for threats, Italian for the man named Dante, who appeared every Thursday with a duffel bag and dead eyes. Jin-Wook never smiled, never raised his voice, never looked at her like she was anything more than furniture that breathed. "Mrs. Seo, you have a fitting at 2." Yuki appeared in doorways like smoke, Jin-Wook's assistant, all sharp angles and sharper intellect. She wore Armani-like armor and watched Sade with something between pity and warning, as if she'd seen this story before and knew how it ended. "For what?" Sade asked. "The charity gala. You'll need to look the part." The part. The phrase sat heavy. What part was she playing? The devoted wife? The ignorant fool? The woman who didn't know her husband preferred men? The gala was worse than she'd imagined. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet playing something mournful, women in gowns that cost more than Sade sent home to her mother each month. Jin-Wook appeared at her side, placed his hand on her lower back, a touch so brief and clinical it felt like being catalogued, and guided her through introductions she wouldn't remember. "Ah, Jin-Wook," an older woman said, diamonds dripping from her neck. "Your bride is lovely, though I admit we were all surprised by the sudden marriage." "Love surprises us all," Jin-Wook replied smoothly, his accent softening the words into something almost believable. The woman's smile was all teeth. "Indeed, though I heard your last partner was irrelevant," Jin-Wook interrupted, voice dropping 10 degrees. Side felt the woman's eyes slide to her, assessing, pitying. As they moved away, she caught fragments of whispered conversations. "Never touched a woman before. His last lover was male, everyone knows. She's just the beard. Poor thing probably has no idea." That night, alone in her enormous bed, Sade opened the leather journal Jin-Wook's people had left in her nightstand. Probably assumed she'd use it for something stupid. Shopping lists. Gratitude nonsense. Instead, she wrote, "I'm disappearing. Even my own reflection looks like a lie." She wanted to call Malik. She did every Thursday, exactly at 7 p.m., when Jin-Wook's people allowed it. But her brother's voice sounded wrong. Hollow, coached, like someone had reached inside him and scooped out all the light. "I'm fine, Sade. Stop worrying. Where are you?" "Safe. That's all that matters." It wasn't all that mattered. But she couldn't say that with whoever was listening. Wednesday of week 3, insomnia drove her to the kitchen at 5 a.m. She found Jin-Wook on the balcony in a t-shirt and sweatpants she'd never seen him wear, almost human. He was crouched low, speaking soft Korean to 3 stray cats eating from paper plates. He looked up. Their eyes met. For half a second, she saw something flicker beneath the ice. Something lost. Then he stood, straightened, and the mask returned. "You should sleep," he said. "So should you." He almost smiled. Almost. "Sleep is for people with clear consciences, Mrs. Seo." He walked past her, close enough that she caught his scent, cedar and smoke, and something underneath that might have been human after all. And Sade realized she wasn't just trapped in a cage. She was locked in with a man who'd built his own prison long before she arrived. Month 4 of marriage arrived with an invitation printed on cream cardstock. Private gallery opening. Contemporary Korean artists. Black tie required. Sade hadn't expected Jin-Wook to care what she wore. But that morning, a garment bag appeared on her bed with a note in his precise handwriting. "Wear this." The dress was emerald green silk, cut to skim her curves without clinging, elegant in a way that made her feel seen for the first time in months. She didn't know why he'd chosen this color. Didn't know why it mattered. But when she descended the stairs and found him waiting in a black tuxedo, his eyes lingered half a second longer than usual. "It suits you," he said quietly. Then the mask returned, and they left in separate cars. The gallery was all glass and light, modern Korean art splashed across white walls like controlled violence. Abstract paintings in red and black, sculptures that looked like frozen screams. A string quartet played something mournful while guests in diamonds sipped champagne and pretended to understand suffering they'd never touched. Jin-Wook moved through the crowd like a shark, graceful, lethal, always aware of everything. His hand found her lower back, guiding her through introductions. This time, his touch lingered. Warmer than before, almost possessive. "My wife has an eye for art," he lied smoothly to a curator. "She appreciates beauty others overlook." Sade played her part, smiled when required, but something felt wrong. A waiter refilling champagne glasses kept glancing at Jin-Wook, Not with recognition, but with calculation. His eyes were too focused, his movements too deliberate. She opened her mouth to speak. The lights died. Darkness swallowed the gallery. Someone screamed. Then came the sound that changed everything. The sharp crack of gunfire, impossibly loud in the enclosed space. Glass sculptures exploded. Champagne flutes shattered. The string quartet's violin shrieked as the bow dragged across strings. Sade felt Jin-Wook move before she saw him. His hand wrapped around her waist, yanking her down as something whistled past her head. She hit marble floor hard, tasted blood where she'd bitten her tongue. "Stay down," Jin-Wook commanded. His voice transformed, colder, sharper, absolutely certain. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like lightning. She saw Jin-Wook's hand emerge from his tuxedo jacket holding a gun she'd never known he carried. He moved with precision that came from muscle memory older than their marriage, raised the weapon, fired twice, and a body dropped somewhere in the chaos. "Dante!" Jin-Wook shouted. "On your six!" The Italian enforcer's voice came from behind them, then a grunt of pain that sounded wrong. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing everything in crimson. Dante was on the ground, blood pooling beneath him from a shoulder wound, still firing at shadows. 3 men in server uniforms advanced with military rifles, professional and efficient. Jin-Wook rose smoothly, positioning himself between Sade and the attackers. He fired. One shot, center mass, and the first man dropped. Second shot, headshot, and another fell. The third rushed forward, and Jin-Wook met him halfway, disarming him with movements too fast to track before putting a bullet through his skull at point-blank range. Clinical. Practiced. Terrifying. "Move," Jin-Wook ordered, hauling Sade to her feet. They ran through a door she'd never noticed, downstairs that shouldn't exist, Jin-Wook's hand iron-tight around her wrist. Behind them, more gunfire, screams. Dante's labored breathing over comms. "Get her out. Psy Syndicate. They know about." The hidden elevator was stainless steel and smelled like oil. Jin-Wook slammed the button, pulled Sade against him as the doors closed. His heart hammered against her cheek, proof he was human after all. "You're bleeding," Sade said, noticing the dark stain spreading across his shoulder. "Graze. I'm fine." The elevator descended into darkness. When the doors opened, they were in an underground garage. A black SUV waited, engine running. Jin-Wook pushed her into the passenger seat, then peeled out before her door fully closed. They drove in silence for 20 minutes, through tunnels, side streets, doubling back, checking mirrors with practiced paranoia. Finally, Jin-Wook pulled into an abandoned warehouse district and killed the engine. "Let me see," Sade said, reaching for his jacket. "I said I'm fine." "And I'm a nurse. Let me see." For once, he didn't argue. She peeled back the jacket, torn shirt beneath, found the wound, a bullet grazed across his shoulder, deep enough to scar. Her hands moved automatically, tearing fabric from her dress to create makeshift gauze, pressing down to stop the bleeding. His hand caught her wrist. "You're shaking. You killed 3 men," she whispered. "In less than 30 seconds. Like it was nothing." "It was something," Jin-Wook said quietly. "It was survival. Mine and yours." "Who were they?" "Psy Syndicate. Taiwan. They think I've gone soft." His jaw tightened. "They're wrong." But his hand was shaking when he reached up to touch her face, checking for injuries with a gentleness that contradicted everything she'd just witnessed. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, came away with blood from a cut she hadn't felt. "You could have died," he said, and something raw cracked through his voice. "So could you." Their eyes met in the darkness. For the first time since she'd signed that contract, Sade saw past the ice, saw fear, saw something that looked dangerously close to caring. The safe house was 40 minutes north, a converted industrial loft with reinforced walls and security she couldn't begin to understand. Jin-Wook punched codes, scanned his palm, waited for 3 separate locks to disengage. The door closed behind them with a sound like a vault ceiling. "We're here for 3 days," Jin-Wook said, peeling off his ruined jacket. "No communication, no contact, just us." Sade looked around the space, 1 bathroom, 1 bedroom, nowhere to hide. "Just us," she repeated, and realized the cage had just gotten much, much smaller. The safe house had 1 bathroom, 1 bed, and too much silence. Day 1, they orbited each other like satellites, careful, distant, hyper-aware of every movement. Jin-Wook claimed the couch despite Sade's protests. She took the bed and didn't sleep, listening to him pace at 3 a.m. with footsteps that sounded like caged animals. Day 2, the walls started closing in. You need to eat, Sade said, finding expired pasta and canned tomatoes in the kitchenette. Jin-Wook sat at the small table, watching her cook with an expression she couldn't read. I'd forgotten what real food tastes like. Everything in my life is catered, controlled, tasteless. She set the plate in front of him. He ate slowly, savoring each bite like a man remembering what pleasure felt like. Your father? Jin-Wook said suddenly. How did he die? Sade's hand stilled on her fork. Car accident. I was 16. Why? Just curious. But something flickered in his eyes, guilt maybe, or knowledge he wasn't sharing. That night, insomnia drove her to the living area at 4 a.m. She found Jin-Wook doing push-ups shirtless, muscles coiling under skin marked by scars. Not the shoulder graze, older wounds, burns, cuts, the kind that came from torture, not accidents. He noticed her watching, didn't stop. Can't sleep, never could. Nursing school ruined my circadian rhythm. He finished his set, sat back on his heels, sweat gleamed on his chest. I was engaged once. The confession hung in the air between them. What happened? Sade asked quietly. Love is a luxury I can't afford. It makes you bleed. He stood, grabbed a shirt. In my world, caring about someone is handing your enemies a loaded gun. Is that why you married me? Because you don't care? He turned, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. I married you because I was ordered to. Staying was supposed to be just as simple. Supposed to be. Day 3, the tension became physical. They reached for the same coffee cup, hands brushing, both pulled away like burned. She caught him watching her sleep from the doorway, his expression unguarded for once, almost tender. When she stirred, he vanished. They watched an old Korean film on the ancient TV, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. Jin-Wook translated whispers in her ear, his breath warm against her neck, and Sade felt something dangerous unfurl in her chest. The main character, she said, is he running from love or toward it? Both, Jin-Wook murmured. That's always been the problem. She fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. When she woke 3 hours later, he hadn't moved. His jacket was draped over her like a blanket, and his hand rested carefully in her hair. Everyone says you're gay, Sade said suddenly, sitting up. That I'm just your cover. Is that what I am? Jin-Wook's expression hardened, then softened into something almost sad. I don't owe the world my truth, but I've never lied to you, Sade. Then tell me the truth. The truth is complicated. I've loved men. I've loved women. What I haven't done is let anyone close enough to matter. Until... He stopped himself. Until what? His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Yuki's name flashed on the screen. Jin-Wook answered, listened, and Sade watched his face drain of color. How bad? She couldn't hear Yuki's response, but Jin-Wook's knuckles went white around the phone. Understood. Keep me updated. He hung up, silent for a long moment. Dante? Sade asked. I see you, critical but stable. He rubbed his face. And Malik's been moved to an unknown location, for his safety, they said. Who's they? That's what I'm going to find out. He looked at her with something close to regret. When this is over, you'll have answers. Your brother, your father, everything, I promise. Your promises don't mean much if you're dead. Then I'll try not to die. That night, unable to sleep again, Sade found Jin-Wook on the balcony smoking, something she'd never seen him do. She took the cigarette from his fingers, took a drag herself, coughed. He almost smiled. Terrible habit. You're full of terrible habits. Says the woman who married a monster. You're not a monster. Monsters don't feed stray cats. Monsters don't have nightmares that make them pace at 3 a.m. He looked at her with such naked vulnerability that she forgot to breathe. What am I then? Scared, she said softly. Just like me. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. The air between them crackled with everything they weren't saying. His phone buzzed again. Encrypted message. Jin-Wook read it, and the warmth died from his eyes. The woman knows nothing. Keep it that way. He deleted it. Didn't tell her what it said. But Sade had seen enough. This wasn't protection. This was a prison. And the bars were made of secrets she was just beginning to see. They returned to the penthouse on a gray Thursday morning, and everything felt different. Jin-Wook's hand lingered on her lower back as he guided her through the door. Their eyes held a second too long over breakfast. When he left for a meeting, he kissed her forehead, brief, almost unconscious, and Sade's breath caught because it felt real. But real was dangerous. She waited until his car disappeared, then went to his study. The room smelled like him, cedar and smoke and secrets. She'd never been allowed inside before, never dared. But 3 days in that safe house had changed something fundamental. She needed answers. Needed to know why a man who claimed to feel nothing looked at her like she was oxygen. The desk drawers were locked. She found the key taped under the leather chair. Amateur hour for someone supposedly untouchable. Inside the bottom drawer, files, photographs, documents that made her hands shake. The first photo showed two men. One she recognized, a younger version of Jin-Wook's father from pictures she'd seen in the penthouse. The other made her stomach drop, her father. Marcus Williams, smiling, arm around the elder Seo, both holding drinks like old friends. More photos, meetings, handshakes, her father looking increasingly nervous as the images progressed. Then the documents. Financial records linking Marcus Williams to the Seo syndicate. Ledgers showing money laundering. A highlighted section, informant agreement with FBI, confidential, and the newspaper clipping yellowed with age. Local man's death ruled suspicious. Marcus Williams, 42, died in single-car accident. Sources suggest foul play. Her father hadn't died in an accident. He'd been executed for betraying the Seos to the FBI. And Jin-Wook had known. Had known when he offered that contract, when he slid the ring across the table, when he touched her face in the safe house like she mattered. She was collateral, a living reminder. Revenge dressed in emerald silk. You weren't supposed to find those. Sade spun. Jin-Wook stood in the doorway, still in his suit, face unreadable. How long had he been watching? You knew, she whispered, photos trembling in her grip. You knew what my father did and you married me anyway? Was this punishment? Am I paying for his sins? Say, answer me. She threw the photos at him. They scattered like accusations. Was I the price? Is that what this is? Jin-Wook's jaw clenched. I married you because I was ordered to. Your bloodline for your brother's freedom. My father's last vindictive command before he died. Make the traitor's daughter wear our name. The words hit like bullets. But that's not why I'm still here, he continued, voice raw. That's not why I haven't touched another person in 5 years. That's not why I can't breathe when you're not in the room. Don't. Sade backed away. Don't you dare make this about feelings. You used me. You've been using me since I fell in love with someone once and watched them die screaming. The silence that followed was deafening. Jin-Wook's chest heaved. His name was Juan. We were 23. He was everything. Smart, kind, saw past all the blood and brutality. I thought I could protect him. His voice cracked. I was wrong. What happened? The Kuznetsov family found out. Captured him, sent me videos of what they did. Jin-Wook's hands shook. It took him 3 days to die. They made sure I heard every scream. Made sure I knew it was my fault for being weak enough to love. Tears burned Sade's eyes. I swore I'd never feel anything again, Jin-Wook said. Cut it out like cancer. Then you walked into my life asking for impossible things and He laughed bitterly. I thought I could keep distance. Thought I could survive you. And now? Now I'm terrified because caring about you makes you a target. And I can't. His voice broke completely. I can't watch someone else die because of me. Sade crossed the space between them, rage and grief and something fiercer colliding in her chest. You don't get to make that choice for me. Sade, she kissed him, desperate, furious, years of loneliness in both of them igniting like gasoline. Jin-Wook froze for half a heartbeat, then his control shattered. His hands dove into her hair, angling her head, kissing her like drowning, and she was air. This is a mistake, he gasped against her mouth. Then make it with me. They stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp, tearing at clothes with shaking hands. Her dress pooled on the floor, his shirt ripped. They crashed into his bedroom, the one she'd never seen, and fell onto silk sheets that finally smelled like both of them. Tell me to stop, Jin-Wook begged, even as his hands mapped her skin like memorizing scripture. Don't you dare stop. What happened next was raw and vulnerable and terrifying. Not performance, not transaction, just two people who'd forgotten how to feel anything but pain, remembering what it meant to be human. Afterward, Jin-Wook held her like she might disappear, face buried in her hair. I'm sorry, he whispered, for everything. Your father, the contract, using you. I'm not, Sade said, and meant it. For the first time in 5 years, Jin-Wook fell asleep holding someone. His breathing evened, walls finally down, and Sade felt his heartbeat against her back. His phone lit up on the nightstand. A text from Yuki. The contract can't be broken. She's already too deep. They'll use her to destroy you. Sade's blood went cold. When she looked back, Jin-Wook's eyes were open, watching her with an expression she'd never seen. Fear. Pure, devastating fear. What did we just do? He asked quietly. Sade touched his face. We stopped pretending. Pretending was safer. Safer isn't living. But as dawn light crept through the windows, they both knew the same truth. In Jin-Wook's world, love wasn't salvation. It was a death sentence waiting to be carried out. Sade woke tangled in sheets that smelled like sex and secrets, Jin-Wook's arm heavy across her waist. Her body ached in ways that made her blush. Last night replayed in fragments. His mouth on her neck, her nails in his back, the way he'd said her name like prayer and profanity. Then memory crashed back. No protection, no thought, just need. You released inside me, she whispered, sitting up suddenly. Jin-Wook stirred, eyes opening slowly. What? Last night. We didn't. Heat flooded her face. You're gay. Everyone says you're gay, and we just... His laugh was low, dangerous. He pulled her back down, rolled to pin her beneath him, and the look in his eyes made her stomach flip. Who told you that? Everyone. The rumors. Your past. I've loved men. I've loved women. His thumb traced her lower lip. What I am is someone who doesn't do casual, and what we did last night. He kissed her slowly, deliberately. There was nothing casual about it. So I'll make you find out exactly who I belong to. The next weeks blurred into stolen moments and dangerous intimacy. Jin-Wook became obsessive, texting between meetings, pulling her into dark corners, learning every sound she made. But also tender. He brought her mother's favorite flowers without being asked, learned how Sade took her coffee, read to her in Korean until she fell asleep. Month 9 arrived with nausea that wouldn't quit. Sade bought the pregnancy test on her way home from a nursing shift, hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Locked herself in the guest bathroom Jin-Wook never used. 3 minutes that lasted hours. Positive. She stared at the 2 lines, and the world tilted. A baby. In this world of bullets and blood. A child who would be leveraged before they took their first breath. She hid the test, told no one, and tried to figure out how to survive what was coming. 2 days later, everything shattered. Lieutenant Kang, Jin-Wook's right hand for a decade, the man he trusted with his life, walked into a meeting and shot Dante in the leg. Not to kill, to send a message. Sai sends his regards, Kang said calmly, and disappeared. The mole had been inside the whole time. Jin-Wook went nuclear, locked down operations, burned through contacts. But Kang was ghost smoke, and the Tsai syndicate was closing in. Stay home, Jin-Wook ordered the night before it happened. Don't go to work. Don't leave the building. Please, Sade, she'd promised. But Mrs. Chen in 4B had a heart condition and no one to take her to dialysis. Sade couldn't say no, just a quick trip, in and out. The hospital parking lot was empty at shift change. Sade felt wrong the moment she stepped out of the car. Too quiet. No birds. The kind of silence that comes before violence. She reached for her phone. Hands grabbed her from behind. A cloth pressed over her mouth, chemical sweetness, then nothing. She woke zip-tied to a metal chair in a warehouse that smelled like rust and fear. Kang stood in front of her, holding a recorder and a script. Simple choice, Mrs. Seo, he said pleasantly. Read this confession. Say Jin-Wook ordered your father's death. Say he's planning to overthrow the Tsai family, or your baby dies. Sade's heart stopped. I'm not. Please. We've had your medical records for weeks. Congratulations, by the way. They knew, before she'd told Jin-Wook, before she'd even processed it herself. Kang set the recorder on a crate. Your husband built his empire on corpses. He'll bury you too, just like all the others. Save yourself. Save the child. Read the script. Sade looked at the paper. Looked at Kang. Thought about Malik, her mother, the tiny life inside her that deserved better than this. Then she thought about Jin-Wook feeding stray cats. Jin-Wook whispering Korean translations. Jin-Wook holding her like she was the only real thing in his world. No, she said clearly. Excuse me? Jin-Wook Seo is more than you'll ever understand. And if you think I'll betray him, you don't know what a Williams woman is made of. Kang's smile died. Wrong answer. He pulled out his phone, swiped through photos. Jin-Wook's past lovers, men and women, faces Sade had never seen, all with dates, all marked, deceased. You're just another body he'll bury, Kang said softly. He destroys everything he touches. Your father learned that. They learned that. Now you'll learn it too. But Sade was done being afraid. Then let him destroy you first. Somewhere outside, tires squealed. Gunfire erupted. Pop, 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 like lethal fireworks. Kang's face went white. No, he couldn't have. The warehouse door exploded inward, torn off its hinges, and through the smoke and chaos walked Jin-Wook, covered in blood that wasn't his. Gun raised, eyes absolutely feral. He'd found her, and God help anyone who stood between him and what he'd finally let himself love. Jin-Wook came through that warehouse door like vengeance incarnate. Blood streaked his face, none of it his. His suit was torn, knuckles split, gun steady in his hand. But his eyes were what terrified Sade. Wild, feral. The eyes of a man who'd burned the world down looking for her. Get away from her, he said, voice dead calm. Kang raised his weapon. Didn't matter. Jin-Wook moved faster, shot him in the shoulder, then the knee, methodical and precise. Kang dropped screaming. Jin-Wook walked over, pressed the gun to his temple. You touched what's mine. Jin-Wook, wait. Kang gasped. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Sade should have been horrified. Should have flinched. Instead, she felt savage satisfaction watching Kang's body hit concrete. Jin-Wook was beside her instantly, cutting the zip ties with a knife that appeared from nowhere. His hands shook as he cupped her face, searching for injuries. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Tell me. I'm pregnant. He froze. Completely. His hands stilled on her face, eyes going wide with fear and hope and something that looked like devastation. How long have you known? He asked quietly. 2 days. I was going to tell you, but then we end this. Jin-Wook pulled her to her feet, wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. Tonight. No more running. No more fear. I end this for you, for them. The drive back was silent, except for Jin-Wook's thumb stroking circles on her hand. Constant, grounding, like he needed to prove she was real. He hadn't let go since the warehouse. Wouldn't let go. At a red light, Sade spoke. You don't have to stay. The contract ends in 9 months anyway. I'll disappear with the baby. Somewhere safe, you'll be free. Jin-Wook slammed the brakes, pulled over so abruptly the seatbelt cut into her shoulder. He turned to her, and the raw pain in his eyes nearly broke her. Free? He laughed bitterly. I married you to survive. I stayed because you became my truth. Don't you understand? I'm not free without you. I'm just buried alive. Jin-Wook, I've spent 5 years cutting out every feeling, every weakness, convinced that was strength. Then you walked into my world and made me remember what it felt like to be human. His hand pressed against her still flat stomach. This child, our child, they deserve better than a father who's afraid to live. They deserve a father who's alive, Sade whispered. Then I make sure we all survive. Back at the penthouse, Jin-Wook made calls. Sade listened from the doorway as he arranged the impossible, a meeting with every major syndicate head. Tsai from Taiwan, Vega from Colombia, Kuznetsov from Russia, Chen from Beijing. You're insane, Yuki said flatly, appearing with files. They'll kill you for this, and her. Then I die making her safe. Jin-Wook's voice was steel. That's a better death than I deserve. There has to be another way. There isn't. I'm proposing complete restructuring, legitimate operations only. They'll either accept or they'll eliminate the problem. Which is you? Which is me? But Sade was done being protected like fragile glass. Over the next 3 days, while Jin-Wook planned his suicide mission, she trained with Dante. The Italian enforcer was out of the hospital, scarred but functional, and he didn't ask questions when she requested shooting lessons. You sure about this? He asked, handing her a Glock. I'm a Williams. We finish what we start. He taught her stance, breathing, how to control the kick. By day 3, she could hit center mass from 50 yards. Jin-Wook found her at the range, watched silently as she emptied a magazine into a target. When she turned, he looked proud and terrified in equal measure. I'm not a damsel, she said firmly, and I'm not hiding while you walk into that meeting alone. Say, I'll be in the balcony, hidden. Back up. She ejected the magazine with confidence that surprised them both. You don't get to die protecting me. We protect each other. That's what partnerships are. Something shifted in his expression. Partnership. Unless you have a better word for it. He crossed to her, took the gun gently from her hands, set it aside, then kissed her with aching tenderness. Different from the desperate heat of before. This was promise, commitment, Choice. I love you, he said against her mouth. I should have said it before. I love you, Sade Williams. Tears burned her eyes. Say it in Korean. Why? Because I want to hear it in your language, your truth. He pulled her close, whispered against her hair. Sarange, naisimjang, naijib. What does it mean? I love you, my heart, my home. His hand found her stomach. Both of you, all of you. That night, they made love slowly, carefully, Jin-Wook treating her like something precious he'd finally allowed himself to keep. He traced her body with reverence, whispered Korean endearments she didn't understand but felt in her bones. Afterward, they lay tangled together, his hand protective over her stomach. If something happens tomorrow, he started, nothing will happen. But if it does, I need you to know, these months with you, they've been the only real thing in my entire life. Sade turned to face him. Then let's have a lifetime of real things. Starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, he agreed, but neither of them slept. They just held each other as dawn approached, memorizing the feel of safety before walking into war. The meeting was set for noon at an abandoned opera house, neutral ground, no weapons except what they could hide. Jin-Wook, dressed in his sharpest suit, slid his wedding ring on for the first time in public. Ready? Yuki asked. Sade checked her rifle from the balcony position, settled into the shadows where no one would see. Ready. Jin-Wook looked up, met her eyes across the cavernous space. She nodded once. I've got you. He nodded back. I know. Then he walked into the lion's den, and Sade prayed they'd both walk out alive. The opera house was a corpse of former grandeur. Velvet seats rotted in rows, chandeliers still glittering despite decades of decay, stage curtains moth-eaten but clinging to elegance. Sade positioned herself in the balcony's darkest corner, rifle steady, watching 5 syndicate heads arrive with armed guards. Jin-Wook stood center stage, alone, looking like he owned the ruins. Mr. Sai entered last, elderly, impeccably dressed, eyes like dead fish. This better be worth my time, so. It is. Jin-Wook's voice carried through the acoustics. I'm proposing complete restructuring. The Seo family withdraws from drug trafficking, human smuggling, all black market operations. We move legitimate, cybersecurity, real estate, private military contracting. Silence, then laughter. You've gone soft, Vega sneered, Colombian accent thick. It's the woman, isn't it? The little nurse? You're weak, Kuznetsov added in Russian-accented English. Your father would spit on this proposal. Jin-Wook's expression didn't change. My father was a monster who died alone and hated. I'm choosing a different path. Sai stood slowly. Your father built an empire on blood and fear. You want to destroy his legacy for what? A woman carrying a bastard child? Watch your mouth, Jin-Wook said quietly, and the temperature dropped. Or what? Sai pulled a gun. You'll kill me? You're outnumbered, outgunned, and outlived your usefulness. You've chosen death, boy. Everything happened at once. Sade shot out the overhead lights. Darkness erupted. Sai fired wildly. Jin-Wook dove behind a row of seats as guards opened fire. Muzzle flashes lit the chaos like strobe lights. Jin-Wook, 3 o'clock! Sade shouted from above, providing covering fire. He moved like liquid shadow, disarming one guard, using his body as a shield. But his own men hesitated, loyalty fracturing under pressure. Boss, we can't, one started. Dante appeared from the side entrance, limping but armed. Like hell you can't. He threw Jin-Wook a weapon. Then Sai's lieutenant aimed at Jin-Wook's back. Dante threw himself in the bullet's path. The impact spun him around, blood blooming across his chest. He went down hard, and Sade's heart stopped. She took the shot. Sai's lieutenant dropped, and she didn't feel guilty. Federal agents? Drop your weapons. The opera house flooded with law enforcement, FBI vests, police shields, and leading them, Yuki, holding a badge that glittered under emergency lights. Sorry, Jin-Wook, she said, voice carrying. But this ends tonight. Jin-Wook could have run, should have run. Sade saw him calculate exits, saw the muscle memory of escape kick in, but then his eyes found her in the balcony, pregnant with his child, rifle still raised, refusing to abandon him. He lowered his weapon, raised his hands. I'm done running. Good, Yuki approached carefully, because you're not under arrest. You're a cooperating witness. The room froze. For 2 years, Jin-Wook has been feeding me intelligence, Yuki announced. Controlled demolitions, taking down trafficking rings, protecting victims. Every crime he committed, calculated to dismantle bigger monsters. She held up documentation. The FBI is offering full immunity in exchange for testimony. Everyone else in this room? She smiled coldly. You're all under arrest. Chaos erupted. Sai tried to run. His own lieutenant shot him in the back. Vega went for his gun. Agents tackled him. Within minutes, every syndicate head was in handcuffs except Jin-Wook. Dante? Jin-Wook asked, voice breaking. Ambulance is coming, an agent replied. He'll make it. Then the side door opened and Malik walked in, thin but clean, escorted by FBI agents, eyes finding his sister immediately. Sade dropped the rifle, ran down the balcony stairs, and crashed into her brother's arms. They both sobbed, months of fear and separation breaking like a dam. You kept your promise, Malik whispered. He kept it, Sade corrected, looking at Jin-Wook. Jin-Wook climbed to the balcony where she'd been positioned, found her there among spent shell casings. His hands cupped her face, thumbs wiping tears. You could have run, he said hoarsely. When the shooting started, when Yuki revealed everything, why didn't you? Because you're not your father, because you chose me, because I choose you. Even knowing what I've done, what I am. You're the man who feeds stray cats, who whispers Korean love words he's too afraid to translate, who killed for me, bled for me, risked everything for me. She pressed his hand to her stomach. You're the father of my child. That's who you are. He kissed her then, desperate, claiming, real, the first public kiss of their marriage, and it tasted like gunpowder and freedom. Below, cameras flashed. News crews captured everything. Morning headline would read, Seo Syndicate dismantled in record FBI sting. Insider cooperation leads to largest organized crime bust in decades. But Jin-Wook didn't care about headlines. He cared about the woman in his arms who'd chosen him when she could have run, and the tiny life between them that meant he'd finally found something worth living for. 6 months transformed everything. Sade woke in a Portland townhouse with sunlight warming wooden floors she'd chosen herself. 7 months pregnant, she moved slowly through her morning routine, scrambled eggs, herbal tea, Korean ballads playing softly from speakers Jin-Wook had left behind. Your daddy has terrible taste in music, she told her belly, smiling when the baby kicked in protest. Malik visited every Sunday now, healthy and whole, studying criminal justice at Portland State. I want to help people like us, he'd said. Give them the second chances we got. Her mother lived 3 blocks away, knitting baby blankets in colors that made Sade cry happy tears. The doorbell rang at 9 sharp. Jin-Wook stood there in jeans and a cable-knit sweater, an FBI agent trailing discreetly behind. Witness protection meant supervised visits during testimony, scheduled freedom on a government leash. But his eyes were softer now. His smile came without effort. They walked to the park, his hand wrapped around hers like he still couldn't believe she was real. When the trial ends, I'm free, Jin-Wook said quietly. Completely. No more handlers, no more restrictions. But I'll always be the man I was, Sade. That doesn't just disappear. She stopped walking. You're also the man who chose me, who chose our baby, who learned to make breakfast without burning it. That's who I see. Jin-Wook knelt suddenly, pressing his hands to her swollen belly. The baby kicked, strong, insistent, and tears slid down his face. I never thought I'd have this. A family. Peace. Someone who sees me and doesn't run. Grace Juan, Sade whispered. He looked up. What? If she's a girl, Grace for new beginnings, Juan for who you loved, Seo for who we're becoming. He stood, pulled her close. The contract ended 3 months ago. We're not legally married anymore. I know. From his pocket, he produced a simple silver band. Then marry me again. No contracts, no lies. Just us choosing each other every single day. Yes, she breathed. Every time, in every lifetime. They married at a courthouse the following week. Malik stood proud beside her. Her mother wept in the front row. Dante arrived in a wheelchair, Yuki pushing him with surprising tenderness. You too? Sade whispered later. Yuki shrugged. He's persistent and Italian. I'm only human. 2 months later, labor arrived at 2 a.m. Jin-Wook drove with controlled precision and held Sade's hand through every contraction, whispering in Korean and English when words failed in one language. Grace Hwan-seo was born at dawn. Tiny, perfect, screaming with her mother's fire and her father's determination. Jin-Wook held her with shaking hands, completely undone. Hello, little one. I'm your father, and you'll never know the world I came from, only the one we're building. The trial concluded 3 weeks later. Full immunity, complete freedom. Their backyard that summer was chaos and joy. Jin-Wook grilled burgers badly, while Sade nursed Grace in the shade, laughing at his concentration face. Malik explained football rules with saintly patience. Dante and Yuki arrived with wine and dessert, holding hands like teenagers. Never thought I'd see this, Dante said, watching Jin-Wook flip a burger. Suburban dad, Jin-Wook. Best role I've ever played, Jin-Wook replied. This time it's real. As sunset painted the sky gold, Jin-Wook caught Sade's eye across the yard. Grace slept milk-drunk against her chest. Their chosen family laughed around a rickety table. He mouthed, I love you. She mouthed back, I know. That night, he stood watching Grace sleep Sade's arms around him from behind. You saved me, little one, he whispered to their daughter, then turned to kiss Sade's temple. Both of you. My truth, my home, forever. They said he couldn't change. They said she was just cover. But love doesn't ask permission, and truth doesn't wait for perfect timing. Some stories don't end with bullets and blood. They end with barbecues and baby giggles and second chances no one thought possible. And that's the most dangerous revolution of all.